I've gotta ask, why was this movie made? Oh, that's why. Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to give you my review of the ill-advised sequel to Todd Phillips' Scorsese-inspired origin to the clown prince of crime, Joker, Folie, Deux. But before we get started, you know exactly what to do. At the end of the video, if you think I've earned it, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. Now let's get into it. Seriously, was anybody out there clamoring for a sequel to Joker? Especially one that's a musical? I mean, the first film, absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Yeah, it's a little derivative of early Scorsese, but it's still gritty, raw, perfectly self-contained, brilliantly shot and acted, and had a lot of themes and an ending that left everybody talking. But this sequel is just an insulting disappointment on so many levels. That was so interested in undoing and tearing down what that first film built, it just ends up feeling like a middle finger to fans of it. Alright, enough beating around the bush, let's dive into the insanity that is Joker, Folie, Deux. I walked in expecting a dark tale that follows up on Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck's final transformation into Joker that we saw at the end of the first movie, causing chaos in Gotham with the help of newcomer Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. But what did we get instead? A very slow burn where nothing really happens, that's filled with misery, incredibly boring court scenes, and totally random music numbers that don't fit in here at all. And coming from someone out there who actually enjoys musicals, these ones are not the fun kind. They are so out of place and disjointed from the plot that they end up just feeling like filler, and not even entertaining filler. Half the time they're just randomly inserted musical sequences that are more like fantasies in Arthur's head, with Joker and Harley just standing on a stage singing together. And the other half of the time, when it happens in real life, it's whisper singing between Gaga and Phoenix. And my god, the only thing worse than a boring musical number is a boring and quiet musical number where you can barely understand what they're freaking saying. There's more than one scene together of Harley and Joker together in the Arkham State Hospital, as they call it, where they're just standing there muttering an entire song. And that's pretty much all that Harley does, when they could have taken that time where they're whisper mumble singing to each other and actually given Harley the development that she deserves. It's about as exciting as watching paint dry, and I'm pretty sure that I checked my watch more than once. I know it might seem crazy, but I'm not all doom and gloom about this actually. I actually kind of enjoyed the first half. They did some interesting stuff with Arthur's time in Arkham, showing how his crimes from the first movie have kind of turned him into this weirdly revered celebrity, and I thought it was interesting that the guards actually found him amusing and were waiting for him to tell a joke every day. Plus, his dynamic with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, as she calls herself, starts off pretty strong, and their chemistry is undeniable. You can tell that Phoenix and Gaga are really giving it their all in this role, and that carried me through some of that early drag, especially with the pseudo-original story that we get for Harley Quinn that actually flips the script and makes her the manipulator for once. I will even give them credit for one or two musical numbers that I actually thought was interesting and held my attention, specifically one courtroom musical scene with Harley and Joker that I actually really enjoyed. They put in some effort there, and it shows. But sadly, that is where the fun stops. The musical sequences that work here are very few and far in between, and what we're left with are a bunch of pointless, uninspired musical numbers that really feel like they're there to just fill up time, instead of helping to tell a story here. And then once we get into Arthur's trial, which is kind of what the whole movie is centered around, the movie takes even more of a nosedive. What starts off as an interesting exploration of his crimes from the first movie and the societal impact that have come from them just turns into kind of a boring mockery, and it does it fast. Aside from one incredibly strong scene involving Gary from the first movie, the little person that Arthur spares because he was always nice to him.
You were the only one that was ever nice to me. Yeah.
That is actually one of the best parts in the movie. This trial is just kind of either boring or ridiculous. And as soon as we get through that best scene in the movie, from there, in these courtroom scenes and even after, you can so feel Todd Phillips' disdain for this character and the audience that loved that first movie oozing out of every scene. Because as for Arthur, he gets thrown through so much misery porn, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna call it, that it skips tragedy and just goes straight for over the top. But never really laughably so, unfortunately. This never gets to fun bad, because they just keep beating you over the head with, man, this sure is depressing, isn't it? Look at all the shit he's going through. By the time the third act rolls around, if you're like me at least, you sit there and you realize that Todd Phillips and the crew from the first movie really regret what that turned into, along with the fact that they think that anybody that sympathized with Arthur Fleck is an awful person. And don't even get me started on the ending. It's like they wanted to slap the audience from that first movie right in the face twice and stick a middle finger right up there too before they roll the credits, especially one scene involving Arthur and the Arkham guards that I just thought went way too far. And after all of that, I have to ask, what is the plot here? Most of the movie's runtime is just courtroom drama, if you can even call it that, with those random disjointed musical numbers thrown in for filler, like I said. Harley doesn't get nearly enough to do, and Arthur doesn't even get a character arc. Scratch that, he actually regresses as a character. I've already mentioned that it felt like Todd Phillips was really trying to undo all of the greatness that he had in that first movie. As a middle finger to that film, the character of Arthur Fleck, and his fans, and that led to this movie feeling like it was trying to subvert our expectations a la The Last Jedi, except feeling even more pointless. And I know I said earlier in this movie that nothing really happens, and that's kind of true, because the movie basically ends up right where it was in the beginning, minus that ending slap in the face. But like I also said, I didn't think it was all bad. To start, this is not the worst movie of the year. Most disappointing? Maybe. But there is still good here in some places, and it's definitely one of the more competently put together movies I've seen all year. Joaquin Phoenix still kills it as Arthur Fleck. And pretty much just Arthur Fleck, unfortunately. Joker isn't really here outside of a few fantasy sequences and like one courtroom scene, even though Phoenix does a great job with it. And when the movie decides to go completely off the rails with the hard-to-watch misery porn, Phoenix still brings an emotional vulnerability to this role that almost makes you forget about how ridiculous it all is. Almost. Lady Gaga as Harley Lee Quinn, pretty good here too. She brings a different side to Harley than we've seen before. Less chaos queen, more Joker groupie that's obsessed with him and also very manipulative. And the chemistry between her and Phoenix is definitely there. But sadly, even if she makes the most with what she has to do thanks to her fantastic voice, she really is not utilized at all outside of some musical numbers. Catherine Keener, who is also always great, is here as Arthur's lawyer, but there's really not much to say about her and her impact on the film because she's kind of barely in it. Brendan Gleeson is also here and does a great job playing somebody you want to hate, even if they can never really figure out what to do with him besides just have him be abusive towards Arthur. And the rest of the supporting cast is solid across the board, but no one really stands out outside of the two leads and the returning character of Gary Puddles, played by Lee Gill. Also, Hildur Guðnadóttir's score, still haunting, beautiful, and perfectly fits the dark, dreary, grounded world of Joker. The use of strings, that brooding, melancholy vibe, it's all still there and it's all great. I just wish it wasn't constantly interrupted by those awkwardly inserted musical numbers. Oh, and of course, just like the first one, the cinematography here is gorgeous. I mean, the visuals in this movie are just stunning. But a movie looking nice and cinematic goes only so far to relieve it of its sins, and it didn't even really do that much here. So, in conclusion, did we need this movie? No, absolutely not. But it's not just that. It's worse than unnecessary. It just feels like it hates its own main character and the success that the first movie got and actively tries to shit all over both of it. To sum it up, this has some fantastic performances, a haunting score, and brilliant cinematography, but it's completely dragged down by pointless filler musical numbers, a weak and pretty much non-existent plot, an overindulgence in misery and pain for the lead that just goes way over the top, and an overwhelming sense that it doesn't even want to exist, capped off by a truly depressing and insulting climax and ending that just left me in a bad mood. I'd skip this one, folks. Maybe if you're curious, check it out on streaming, but if you're a fan of that first one, I wouldn't bother. The only ones that I can see really enjoying this film are people that despise the first one, so do with that what you will. And that's my review of Joker, Folie, Deux. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. I said it earlier. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any many reviews. While you're at it, you can scroll down to the description below, find the links to my socials, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, and if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of The Wild Robot, or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews and my shorts. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for my review of Hellboy, The Crooked Man.